I'm Christine. Welcome to the Recovering Perfectionist Podcast, where I empower you to develop sustainable habits, challenge society, and take messy action. It's time to align with the universe for the full human experience and redefine what it really means to be successful.
It's too good, the secret is out and wow.
Hi, welcome back to the Recovering Perfectionist Podcast. My name is Maggie, and I'm doing a little takeover here today. I am with Christine, the founder of the Dance Wellness Community, which is mission to connect dancers with wellness education and resources so that they can not only perform at a high level, which they're already doing, but not burn themselves out and be able to maintain their well-being. So, Christine, again, the founder, our high performance coach.
Yes. Hi. Thanks, Maggie, for being here. For those of you who don't know, Maggie and I have been working together now for, oh my gosh, over 4 or 5 years. And this is my girl. This is my ride or die when it comes to wellness. So she understands everything we're talking about here, and we've built an online academy, which we'll tell you more about later. But this is great, and I really, really appreciate you doing this, Mags. You're awesome.
So happy to be here. Okay, so let's dive right in.
Yeah.
I think it's really important for people who are going to be working with somebody and trusting them with kind of their own evolution and their up leveling to really get to know their providers first. So I'd love to hear about what you specialize in.
Yeah. So like you said, I call myself a high performance coach because I work specifically with high performing athletes. I also work with outside of the dance industry, like CEOs and entrepreneurs and things like that. To help them to understand how to create systems, big on the systems, and delegation in their life, in their business, so that they can, again, like you said, perform at these high levels without sacrificing their well-being in the process, burning out, exhaustion, the work-life balance that a lot of people think doesn't exist. We're in that new age where it does, and you can be a high achiever and perform at a high level and still take time off for yourself, have the self-care, do the things. Yes, high achievers are going to have seasons of life. So we may not be able to do that consistently as someone who works corporate or someone who is more focused on creating that real balance. But I think balance for high achievers looks different. And that's what I focus on as a high performance coach is I want to show you that everybody's balance is different. What does that look like for you? What some people don't need as much time off as others, so it's really finding what works for you, but making sure that you're not just phoning in the wellness.
Been there. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so how long have you been in this space doing this work?
So I have been doing this, I would say, probably since 2018 is when I started really going through my journey. That was when I was really digging deep, and I was starting to I was already coaching because I grew up, I was in my early and late 20s. I was a dance instructor. So I was coaching, I was teaching, I was already working in this space a lot. But as far as working as a coach and in the wellness space, I think that started really probably around 2020. That really gave me the opportunity to take it to another level. I started as a manifestation coach, worked with energy, and then you and I partnered up and we started doing the Freedom Mindset Academy, which is awesome, and created this 12-week all-inclusive type, academy where we did live calls and we still do. And it is just the coolest thing. I think it's I don't know about you, but it's some of my best work I've ever done. And I feel it's been able to be an avenue for me to connect with people like me in my sport to be able to be like, okay, listen, like there's tools and resources for us, and we can still, because everyone told me, oh, you want a work-life balance? You can't be a high achiever. That's what I was
Right.
told. And that
Yeah.
frustrated, that frustrated the shit out of me because I could not, it didn't make sense. I was like, I love being a high achiever, but I also need to understand when to rest and play.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. And I think, right, there is a misconception that the only way to achieve at a high level is to focus exclusively on the work at hand and
mhm.
not a lot of acknowledging how the fun, the play, the resting actually revitalizes us, re-energizes us, boosts our
It's like charging your
creativity.
phone. I mean,
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
don't just let it run. But in our industry, and this is something also, for you, Maggie, to know because Maggie's not a dancer, so she doesn't really know our industry, but she knows wellness and she's got
Not
degree,
professionally.
not
Not professionally.
professionally. I mean, Maggie has helped so many of our dancers through what she does with the psychology and the understanding of self-worthiness and why we do what we do and procrastination, all these things. Like Maggie's mindset in all of the things that we do in our academy is incredible. But the the athletes they're constantly pushing, pushing, pushing. I want to be a champion. And they're trained by our previous coaches who did the same thing. And you see their life. And a lot of our generation is now like, well, I don't want their life when I retire. Like, well, how can I create? Some of them don't even have kids because they didn't take time to have a family life. They were just like, I want to be a champion. I want to be a champion. And so now our newer generation is like, I'm going to take time off. I'm going to have my kids. And then they're coming back and competing again. And
Hmm.
some of the older generation, they're like, well, you're going to lose your spot. That's never going to work. Like you either want to do this or not. And they're finding fulfillment in other ways to win,
Hmm.
which is,
Mm.
again, a new level of balance that they're getting so much out of this industry. And maybe they are coming back and they're like top of the food chain again because they just are that good. But maybe they're not. And they're realizing that, wow, I just wanted to dance for myself. And the fact that I could have my kids and come back and do that is so fulfilling already,
Hmm.
and they have a studio maybe and they have, clients that they work with. And that's fulfilling because they're sharing their passion of dance. There's so many ways to win in our industry. And I think that it gets overshadowed by the one path.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
And
It's
I think,
not all or nothing.
well, right. And there comes a reckoning point where it's like excellence at what cost? And I think,
Right.
like you're saying, there may be some people who truly like would be fine not having chosen the family path and pursuing this exclusively. Like I think you were mentioning earlier, not everybody is wired the same and needs the same amount of
Yeah.
rest or the same amount of time. It's like we
Oh, totally.
all and you do that really well, calibrating specifically for each person and like being able to
Mm.
dial into their specific needs and acknowledge that and then give them specific optimization tools so that they can do what's right for them because it's not a one size fits all.
No,
But
it's
I
not. It's
do
very
think
customized.
right. And like we just we've got to ask, is the excellence, at what point are we sacrificing more than we are getting from
Oh,
like just striving for high
great question.
achievement?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I've had some people even tell me, they go, wow, once I got there. And I spoke there's a great podcast, which I might even link in the show notes, with one of our dancers, Natalie Crandall. And we talked, she made it to the top. She won something that people have never won. She won 2 national titles in a row at the same event. She goes, Christine, right before that happened, I passed out at the airport. I was exhausted. I was jet lagged. I was overwhelmed. I competed. I won. And afterwards, I go, well, now what? Like, I was so exhausted. I just wanted to go home and sleep. And I thought I was going to, like, this is what I've been working for my whole life. And so, like you said, like, you get to a point where you're sacrificing so much of yourself. When you actually do win, if you do win, is it even worth what you sacrificed? And
Right.
that's not everybody's story. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's like, oh yeah, it's totally worth it. And it is. But at the same
Right.
time, I'm not saying that it's not. I'm not trying to downplay the championship, but at the same time, um, we're just in a different space now where there's so much happening around us. And you tell me this all the time. You're like, Christine, our brains were not wired to handle this much stimulation. We've got wildfires in California. We've got wars. We've got.
It's too much. We're little cavemen. Cavemen.
Yeah. So on top of that, when you're trying to accomplish something, a goal, and trying to block out a lot of the things around you, and then you're trying to maintain your nutrition and your physical activity and your mental health and your emotional and your relationships. And like some people sacrifice even being in a relationship because that person doesn't understand their life. And it sucks. It just sucks because it's like, like you said, you're giving up so much. And I hope that when you get to the end and you get what you want, that it is worth all the things you gave up in the past.
Right. That's the math that needs to be mathed.
That needs to be mathed. Yeah.
End of the day. Yeah. And I think too, I'm, again, not a professional dancer, just a hobbyist. I think at least what I'm guessing is that in this sort of athletic framework, there's a lot more focus on the physicality of the practice of like you're saying, like what you eat, how you're sleeping, how you're moving, how you're stretching, all of this. But not necessarily, like, I think that probably the mentality and the self-care and the well-being is like pretty much in the back seat as a general rule.
It is. And like I said, the people running our industry, the judges, the officials, like we love them. They're amazing people, but you don't know what you don't know. So they didn't have that kind of support and wellness. So how can they teach our next generation that self-care and wellness and all of that? Because they're like, well, I didn't have this. Like I just was in the studio for 8 to 10 hours a day and I was traveling all over the world and I was jet lagged and I was tired, but I did it. And so if I can do it, you can do it. And it's like, right, but when are we going to like evolve as generations? It's like the same thing with generational trauma from your family. Like it's like this is what we're doing here. So that's hard for some people to understand because they didn't do that. So they're like, well, that's not how I train my clients. And it's like, right, but like they need that. They're struggling and there's no support for them in what you think is the support. It's not take a day off and like come back to the studio tomorrow. It's different.
Yeah.
So
I think that there's a little survivor bias there too. It's like, well, I did it and I'm fine. It's like, but are you?
That's
and like, some of them probably are. But it's also like there is this kind of hazing mentality, I think, and really elite spheres, whether it's athletics or corporate or entrepreneurship or like even in government, right? It's like we had to put in this kind of work and like really work ourselves to the bone and like absolutely like use every ounce of resource that we had available to us. We were like suffering. And so you must also suffer. It's like, like a rite of passage thing. And I think you're totally right. The paradigm seems to be shifting where, why must we do that though? It's like, somebody has this.
Well, we see, well, you and I, when we were looking for like a way to win with our academy, we wanted a business coach they were living the life we wanted to live. And so when we look for people that we want to work with, and in our industry, it's, professional ballroom coaches that have won multiple world and national champions to train them to be champions, so it's like that generation coach is the next. They're looking for the people. They're like, well, I'm coaching with the world champion of blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that's great. But like, look at their life now. Do you want their life now? No, I want what they won. Right. Okay. So you want what they won, but then after that, they don't see the after that. And I think that's the thing is you get yourself into all these bad habits and it's like, okay, so you won. Now what? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so when you see a lot of them now, it's like, do you want to live like that? Do you want that family life? Do you want that, insert whatever it is here? And that's the kind of thing that I'm always looking at is if I'm going to work with someone or I want to know that they are executing what I want.
Yeah.
If I want to make $1 million, I'm not going to work with a coach who's not making anything less than $1 million, and, or if I want to have good nutrition, I'm going to work with someone who also understands and has good nutrition and walks around, looking good, feeling good, not someone who's overweight and exhausted and stressed, like that kind of thing. So I think that's really important. I think that's what we're looking for more in the wellness space is people that
Hmm.
are walking the walk and talking the talk,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's how you up level. It's not by
Yeah.
doing the same thing that you're already doing.
Right.
There needs to be, a modicum of innovation at some point.
Totally. Totally.
Um, yeah. So who do you help specifically? Like, if you were to identify your target client, who do you think that you make the most impact on?
So this is a hard question to answer for what I do specifically because we have practitioners, which, if you guys have listened to the other practitioners chat, it's amazing. We've got nutrition, physical wellness, competition prep, business and branding. Like these are people like that they're working specifically to help this particular client. Mine is a little bit more general in the sense that like I can help anyone. So can they. But I'm really looking for the people who feel like I know what my goal is and I know how to get there, but something just doesn't feel right. I'm feeling
Mhm.
off. And I know that that's kind of a general like answer of like, well, that's a feeling, but it's more just like I've had so many people come up to me. And one of the reasons why I wanted to create this community, because it was just felt like a calling that people would
Mhm.
see our academy online and they're like, "Ooh, can you tell me more about that?" Like I've had people come up to me at Hawaii Star Ball at the coffee shop in between us working. And they're like, "Hey, I really got to talk to you. Like, I'm, thinking about retiring. I can't sustain this lifestyle anymore. Like it's expensive, it's exhausting." And I'm like, "Oh, this is not a coffee shop conversation that's going to fix your life. Like we got to really hammer this in." And so, but then they go back on the floor and everything's fine and great because they know how to perform. And it's like I said, "How do you feel when you're dancing?" "Oh, I feel great." "And how do you feel when you're not dancing?" "Miserable." And I start to crunch
Mhm.
the numbers and I start to see my life and I'm exhausted and I don't know where I'm going. And so when you're starting to have feelings like that, the dance is not meant to be a band-aid. The dance
Yeah.
is meant to be something that you love to do. It's not supposed to be an escape. It's supposed to be what fulfills you. And so if it's starting
Mhm.
to feel like an escape from the madness of the day to day, that's when you need to start questioning like, well, maybe I need some like additional support here. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And so
Yeah.
that those are the people I want to talk to is I don't want you to get to burnout. I want to catch you before that happens. But if we're already there, we can fix that too.
Mhm.
Um, but mostly like, yeah, if we're working on burnout recovery, perfectionism is a huge thing that I work on because our
Mhm.
industry is full of it. It breeds it, right? We constantly have judges looking at us, making sure no hair is out of place. Our dresses are perfect, the color's right, the makeup's good. We spend hours in hair and makeup. These are, you know, qualities that when I realized I brought them out into the real world was just not serving me at
Yikes.
all.
Yeah.
It was terrifying. So that's something I work on a lot. And my big thing that I work on is systems. Systems is
Mhm.
like that's my wheelhouse. That's my happy place. I mean, I have a system for everything in my life. I have a system now. I have a child. I have a system for everything that we do with him. I have a system when I travel. Everything has a system. And what that does is that because Maggie and I get this question all the time. So you guys just never burn out anymore. You guys never have any problems in your life. And we're like, oh God, no. No,
Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, right, right. We're perfect. No, everything it still happens all the time. We just chatted about it the other day. Maggie and I are always going through something, but we have tools that we can lean on. We have people, we have support communities, we've maybe been through something similar and now we're having to grow in a different direction to understand the lesson that we're learning. We know how to handle it so much better than when you're just in a hole and everything's going
Mhm.
dark and you don't know where to turn. That's extreme exhaustion and burnout. And
Mhm.
what I do that I get to lean on, not only my community and my support as, like Maggie, but I have my systems. They're my
Mhm.
accountability. And they're the things
Mhm.
that I can go to and be like, okay, cool. Like I may not feel like I want to get out of bed this morning because I'm feeling like crap, but I got to make a bottle for my son, and this has to go here and this has to go there. And I need to make sure that I can, like, I'll check a couple messages because I know, like, I have my systems of how I do things in the morning that can still keep me feeling like I'm being productive or like the world isn't ending. And then when I start getting into those things, I'm like, okay, I feel a little bit better. Like, I feel like the world isn't falling. You know what I mean? Like, there is some things that are moving because there's accountability. One more thing to add to that is my husband and I, because this just happened, we've been going through, some adjustments being new parents. And that
Mhm.
has caused us to not have as much time together. And so we've been trying to focus more on each other. And that's caused us to have, some, disagreements and things like that. And then we get to the end of the year and he looked at me and he goes, well, what do you want to do tonight? Like, we don't have the baby. Like, we need to do our life points and we got to set our goals for 2025. And I just looked at him and just had the biggest smile on my face because I was like, literally, the accountability of our annual goals that we set on New Year's Eve, like, was what helped us have an amazing night that night. And it helped us to start the conversation of other things. And it's like, if we didn't have that, I don't know how the date night would have gone or you know what I mean? But like, we have accountability and systems in our life that, like, it's New Year's Eve, we got to do our goals, like, and I loved that because
Mhm.
that just helps us keep the boat moving, even if there's some holes we got to patch.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
totally.
Yeah.
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 So I think, you know, after having worked with you for so long, I think what is really beautiful about your work is that you help people kind of diversify their portfolios. So,
I like that
uh,
phrase.
yeah, you don't want to just be all invested in one thing and to
Right.
put all of your eggs in one basket. Like I'm just thinking about this woman that you were talking about who like seems to only have dance going and only
Yeah.
when she's actually dancing.
Yeah.
Um, so that's, it's kind of I think you probably identified that immediately. It was like that, we should have more things in our life that are providing us with support and joy and structure.
Mhm.
And you know, I think a lot of us, maybe I'm like more anarchical than you, but like I have fought the structure my whole life. But we really need it. We really need it because we need something to bump up against. That's how we grow. That's how we
Right.
learn about ourselves. And it allows us when we have this reliable structure, like you're talking about, these things, these touchstones that we can come back to repeatedly. That
Yes.
is like it allows us to be softer, to be more creative, to be more fluid. It allows us to feel like we are accountable and reliable people,
Mhm.
which I know can be really hard, especially, when you're trying to uphold these like really rigorous habits and routines. And that's, if you miss a day, it's like that perfectionism. It's like, oh my God, the whole castle's going to come tumbling down. It's
Yes.
like you missed
Yes.
one day. And, it's
Right.
like having
Giving
systems
yourself
for,
grace. That's a hard thing for our athletes to do. Yeah.
hmm, well,
Mhm.
I think that is a hard one in general.
It is, but especially when, like you said,
Yeah.
you're really on that. But I like the identity piece that you talked about because we have our practitioners, we also have ambassadors, which is so, so cool. We have some incredible ambassadors. One specifically who just retired, Andrew Escombe. He just, national rhythm champion, just incredible. And he's going to share his story. But he told me that, like, between partnerships, he had an identity crisis where ballroom was the only thing that was his identity. He's like, and I had no
Mhm.
idea anything else. He just got married, and so he's got all these amazing things that are happening in his life. But he's like, I had to really hit my rock bottom to understand who I was before I got into a new dance partnership and decide what my goals were moving forward. And that new
Mhm.
partnership ended up exploding in the best way, and everyone was obsessed with them, and they made it to the top, and it was so great. But like, if he didn't do the work on himself before then, before he got into that partnership, like, that journey would have been very different for him. And he may
Right.
have, like, he just retired, he may not have retired at that time. Like, now he's going to be able to have, enjoy his marriage, and eventually they want to have kids, and like, he's going back to school and he's going to do sports psychology. And like, it's so, so cool where his journey has come because he was so wrapped up in the sport and that was what he was trained in. But we have so many other, amazing ambassadors that are going to share their stories. And this identity piece is the common factor in so many of their stories because you just get wrapped up. And I get it. Like, I always I use the top example of Simone Biles. Like, if you ask Simone Biles who she is, she's a Team USA Olympic gymnast, right? Gold medal winner, X, Y, and Z. But now she's like, well, I'm also a wife and she wants to be a mother and she's a dog mom and she's a football wife and she's all these things. And like seeing her do what she did in Tokyo, in front of everybody with no shame on feeling like she was letting anybody down. She had to take care of herself and then come back in Paris doing what she did. That example for me is the best example of what we do here in this space with athletes, because nobody can tell me, oh, well, but if you want to be the best, it's like, no, if Simone Biles can do what she did, you can definitely do this.
Yeah. Even Suni Lee on that team who had so many horrible illnesses and like still came back to compete. Like, I think those girls are really, especially what
team.
The program has.
What a redemption year. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Super rock solid.
Yeah. Totally agree.
Considering what that program has been through. And like, I think that's like probably why this keeps coming up. It's because they've also reimagined what their organization is. And so they've moved from that old paradigm to like a new one. And now our gymnasts are competing older than ever before.
Yes.
They are lasting
the oldest
longer.
team. Can you believe that? Like the oldest team. And not just that, Suni Lee, I'm glad you brought her up because Suni Lee mentioned that she said after the illnesses that she incurred and the doctors telling her she may never come back and do what she loves, her gold medal was stepping on the floor at the Olympics. And that's what I was talking about before, is finding new ways of fulfillment, is not giving up your dream of being the top. You don't have to say, oh, well, I can't achieve that, so this is the thing that I now want to do. It's not seconds or the thing that you can get, that you can grasp. It's the fact that she overcame so much sickness and illness that now her stepping onto the mat is the win. And she has a whole different perspective and gratitude for the fact that she can do this in a healthy body. And that overcomes any gold medal. And then on top of that, she won gold, was just, incredible, and just goes to show that you can come back. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah.
It was incredible to watch. What a year. What a year for women's gymnastics. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that we are such an outcome oriented culture, and we really overlook the importance of process. And I think that's a lot of like the work that you do is process. It is like making, we are working towards elite outcomes, but we are using processes and systems that allow us to get there without dying, without killing ourselves.
Right.
And that's like, when we do that, because, and this is not unique, but when you set a goal and you get it, it never feels as good for as long. And if you are the kind of person who's high achieving, you're constantly going to be like, what's next? And that is
you're
like,
on to the next goal.
Totally, exactly. And that's natural, because that's why we've taken over, we're just animals with thumbs, that's how we've taken over this entire planet, is because what's next? We are constantly innovating. We are constantly driven to move forward. And so that impulse is not wrong, but if we are not, it's not going to give us the goods. It's not going to give us the goods. And so if we're not,
it's not as fulfilling as we think it is once we get there.
Ever. Yeah. And maybe having a kid is the only thing that like might actually be as good or better.
I'll let you know when I'm out of the baby phase.
Yeah. No, I promise. It gets better. It gets so much better.
I love him. It's just, it's a transition for sure.
You're in the shit. We're all in the shit. but it gets better. Once the toddler year is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if we're not having a process, a system to get to where we're going, that's actually like most of it is the process. Most of it
Right.
is the journey, not
Yeah.
the end. And so if we're miserable in the most part, then we have miserable lives.
Right. And the outcome isn't going to fix or
No.
fulfill the years and years and years, because we're talking about spans of years, sometimes decades, for people to go from when they started to when they win their title that they're working towards. And that those years and years of sacrifice and exhaustion and, jet lag and, sacrificing relationships and mental health and self-care and all these things, you win that title. How long does it last? You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
in 1 year, there's going to be someone new that's going to have that title unless you're competing again and maintaining that level. We have one of our ambassadors, Shannon Jensen. She dances with her husband, Shane. They've been married for 15 years and competing that long. And they've been at the top of their game for the last 10, which is something, it's like Simone Biles. It's like, how do you maintain that level of excellence, essentially? And they work with a sports psychologist. That's one of the reasons I wanted her to be an ambassador, is because I'm like, you've got to talk about this. Like, you're not at the top constantly innovating. Every time you come out, everyone's wowed by what you do. They do cabaret, so they're lifting each other all the time. I'm like, the athleticism, the mental health, the trust, the just the power that you guys have. You have to be doing something else other than just, I'm training in the studio. You know what I mean? Like, there's more to it. And they go, yeah, obviously for our marriage and for our dancing, we work with a sports psychologist. Like, it's very important to us. So we're going to elaborate more on that in Shannon's story. But like, like you said, the process, the journey, and this is what I want to offer people, is resources to help you understand your process and your journey and understand why you have the goal you have. Is it because your coach was this, so you want to be that? Is it because you partnered with someone who has this goal and now you've taken on their desires? Which, again, those aren't bad things. If you want something because someone's put that in, lit that fire in you, that's great. But you have to also make sure that you're doing this for you too. You can't, it's like
Mhm.
people told me, you can't have a baby for somebody else. You gotta want the baby too. And so, and you, right, all of it. And so the journey of creating and the process going through with these systems, with allowing yourself to enjoy the journey, right? What is the phrase we use all the time? We talk about living in the house you're building.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? We talk about this with our clients in our
Mhm.
academy. It's amazing because you're constantly building, right? You're under construction all the time. You're renovating this room. You're renovating this room. Oh, we need a new patio. Oh, and then, like, you're always living in a hotel. You're never actually living in this dream house you're building because it's always under construction. And that's how I feel about a
Mhm.
lot of people in their lives, is that they're constantly trying this, doing that. Everything's unstable, and they're never actually enjoying being in the present moment. Um,
Mhm.
that's not a way to live. It's just not.
No, it's not living.
Yeah,
It's not
it's not
living.
sustainable
And I
either.
think, people would be surprised to learn that they don't actually know what they want or why.
Mm,
And that's
that
a
part.
lot
That
more
part.
than you would
Yeah.
think. I mean, it's almost like we are propelled daily towards all of our little tasks and like the
Yeah.
things that we need to do. But when was the last time you actually thought about what you wanted and why? And like
Yeah.
sometimes we set these goals so long ago and we change. I changed so much from like
Yeah.
even day to day, feels like, like,
Yep.
and we don't come back to check in. Like, is this something I still want? Is this something that's still worth pursuing? Is it still aligning with the life that I'm living currently and the person that I am now?
Right.
And we don't create intentional space for that, especially when you're at an elite level training your ass off all the time, like
Yeah.
it's that sort of is taken over everything.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
This community is going to be a game changer. We're really, I mean, all the practitioners that we have on board, they're all experts in what they do outside of the dance industry, and they're all dancers, which is amazing. So they know how to work with our athletes, and our ambassadors. They're just so excited. But the real meat of this here is the community aspect our dance world thrives on community supporting each other in the ballroom. So I want to create that same atmosphere either online, or I want to do live events. I want to do retreats eventually, all of these things, at dance competitions, things like that. So we can commune together. But we're going to have, live calls within the group. We're going to, with our practitioners. So you have access to these experts right there in front of you. We've got monthly newsletters where you're going to get wellness blogs, recipes, some of my systems that I love to share. I'm big on the systems, like I said. We're going to have, I've got a cute welcome gift for everybody when they join. And I want people to feel like they are supported. There's a place for healing. If you're feeling lost and you don't know who to go to, and the people around you are pushing you in a direction that maybe you don't necessarily want to go, or they're pushing you, but you don't know how to keep up with it. Like, that's the thing. It doesn't necessarily need to be like things that are happening or the people that are around you it's not good for you. You could have the best team, and then you're just like, I gotta step up to the plate, but I need to put in some self-care in there so I can refuel. It's the refueling. I think that's the problem. The recharging is people think they can run on endless amounts of battery lifespan, and it just doesn't work that way. We don't do that with our cell phones. We don't do that with our devices. We don't do that with our cars. We put fuel in the car. Like, why would we be any different? And then people say, it's like maintenance for your body. You do the checkups, but also for your mind. There's just so much that goes into it, and we don't realize the conversations about this, I feel like, have started, but they're just now starting to really, catch wind. And this is what I want to do, is I want to escalate those conversations, and I want to have a safe space where people feel like they can be vulnerable and talk about those things instead of just secretly coming up to me at a coffee shop and saying, I got to talk to you about something because I've hit a wall. And it's like, right, I know, I can feel it, but I want to help you. I want to provide you with resources. And that was the thing, is I didn't feel like I could in that moment help her the way I wanted to help her. And so being able to have this value in this community and these pillars and these resources and tools and all of these things that we can do, now I feel like I have something to offer that can really help people on a level that they need.
Hell yeah. I love that you're just pulling this all together and offering this up to people. I think that is one of your greatest gifts, is getting people connected with the resources that they need. And I think you're a great connector of people. You're great at finding people who are great and passionate about what they do. Because I think, I know one thing about you, you really value your time, and you are constantly trying to deliver value, the most bang for buck to your people. And I think you're really deeply and genuinely passionate about, giving people their lives back, which I think is a really beautiful gift.
Yeah.
Perhaps the most beautiful gift that you could give someone.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. And I feel like, here's the thing. My brother and I, we grew up in the ballroom dance industry. My dad had a dance studio. We were in our, teens, and we could have easily just followed the same path and become a professional and, a professional competitor, and not just taught. And we could have done all the things. And we saw what our friends were doing and the way that it was taking from their lives, and it was full-time and all these things. And we were like, wow, that just looks so exhausting. And then like, what happens at the end? So if I had this community, the dance wellness community, or I had these resources, or I had people to talk to that could help guide me in that process to doing it sustainably. That's the thing. I'm not telling you to not do it. I'm telling you to do it sustainably. And if I had that, and my brother had that, maybe we would have taken a different path. I don't regret the path we took, because we're both happy where we are. But I don't want people to choose. I don't want it to be an all or nothing situation for them. I want them to feel like they can do this and they can achieve their goals and they can follow the paths that they want, but they can also do that without sacrificing everything in the process. And just saying, I'm going to block everything out for however many years it takes me to get to this point. There's better ways to do it. And when you really talk to some of the high-end professionals like Shannon Jensen, like Anastasia, like some of these people that people really look up to, they had coaches and sports psychologists they worked with, and either they told no one, or nobody asked them, or nobody thought about it. Like those conversations are not happening. And so I'm here to bust down those walls, and we can't gatekeep this information anymore. This needs to happen. So
amazing.
That's where we're at.
I love it.
Yay!
Yay!
You're awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, you go.
Thank you.
I forgot it's a takeover.
Thank you.
I forgot.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us today. I hope that you learned a little bit more about why Christine is so passionate about this, why she founded this community, and really wanted to bring these people together. I think, taking from your own journey to give people the things that you wish you had had along it is just such a beautiful gift. And so happy that you've done this. So excited for all the lives that you're going to touch. And I just can't wait to see what you guys do.
Yes, I love it. Thank you for being here. And who knows, maybe we'll have to have a guest appearance in the community with Maggie, because you guys have no idea. You have no idea the value this woman holds. I'm saving her. She's my secret weapon. Let's go. Thank you guys so much. If you guys want to sign up and register for the Dance Wellness Community, link is in the show notes, and we're happy to have you. This is going to grow and grow and grow, and we just want you to be a part of something wonderful and have the support that you're looking for. So thank you all, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Secret is out and wow.